Good morning, Phoenix class, and welcome to today's video. I can use fractions to interpret pie charts. So remember, a pie chart allows you to compare the parts with the whole. Every sector of the pie chart is a proportion of your whole. So the first thing is you've got a bit of a recap there. Can you answer these questions based on this particular pie chart? What other questions could you ask? So our first problem of the day. So the question is asking, for what fraction of the day does Emily sleep? So we can see a pie chart here, and the lady is saying Emily is 2 months old now. She sleeps most of the day. But actually, when we look at the pie chart, we can see the sleeping section with yellow with dots. We can see that she plays for the white sections, and the red is when she is eating. Now, each of the sections in this pie chart represents 1 hour. So in total, obviously, for a whole day, there are 24 hours in a day. So there are 24 sections. The question is asking us, what fraction of the day does Emily sleep? So the first thing, as we said, we know that the whole pie chart is split into 24 sections. So we're going to make our denominator of our fraction 24. So the denominator is the number of sections the pie chart has been split into. So now let's count. We need to count the yellow and spotted sections. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So our numerator is the number of sections that we have just counted. So in this case, that is the number of sections that show when Emily was sleeping. Now, as you can see, we've now got a fraction of 14/24. But this is not in its simplest form. I know that because both those numbers are even. Therefore, they must be in the 2 times table. So I need to find another fraction that might be in its simplest form. So what can I divide the denominator by? And what I divide the denominator by, I also divide the numerator by. So 24 divided by 2, well, that's going to be 12. 14 divided by 2, because what we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator, is going to be 7. So now I can say that Emily spends 7/12 of the day asleep. Can that fraction be simplified any further? No, it can't. I know that 12 is not in the 7 times table, and 7 is a prime number, so there aren't any other possibilities. And here we go through it again. So there are 24 segments in the pie chart, so each of the segments represents 1 hour. We know that we are looking at the yellow and dotty section because that represents the sleeping part. So 24 becomes our denominator and 14 becomes our numerator because there are 14 dotted segments. We then simplify this to make 7/12. You can clearly see that Emily spends more than half the day sleeping because half would be one side of that line. Okay, so Max says, I think she spends 1/3 of each day just eating. Is he correct? Well, first of all, which colour on our chart are we looking at for eating? Well, we can see that eating is this red part here. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sections or 4 hours that she spends eating. Okay, so how are we going to write that as a fraction? Do you want to have a go? Remember, the denominator will still be the same as we had before. So let's work out how we can do this. So 24 divided by 3. Why have I divided by 3? Because they think 1/3 is going to be spent eating. So I want to know what 1/3 would be. When we're finding a fraction of a whole number, we divide by the denominator. So 1/3 of 24 is 8. So if she was eating for 1/3 of the day, she would need to be eating for 8 hours. So that would be all the way round here. So actually he's wrong, isn't he? Max is wrong. We could have done it the other way. We could have put number of hours that she actually spends eating as a fraction. So 4 out of 24 hours. And then we can simplify that. So think about what times table 4 and 24 are both in. They're both in the 4 times table, aren't they? So what we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. So we divide the numerator by 4, which gives us 1. We divide the denominator by 4, and that gives us 6. So we have 1/6. So therefore, we can say that Max is not correct. Emily spends 1/6 of the day eating, not 1/3. So let's have a look at this question. Emily is now 2 years old. The pie chart shows how her day is divided. Complete the information. So half of Emily's time is spent, something of Emily's time is spent eating, and something of Emily's time is spent playing. And we want to answer those last two as a fraction. First of all, let's just make sure we understand the key. So the time she spends sleeping is going to be the spotted area. The time she spends eating, that's all coloured in red. And the time she spends playing, that's in white. Now, the first thing we have to fill in says half of Emily's time is spent. Well, half of Emily's time, I can draw a line straight down the middle of that circle. So here's half of Emily's time. So what is she doing there? Have a look back and check on your key. Half of Emily's time is spent sleeping. So next, what fraction of Emily's time is spent eating? Well, we know that our denominator of our fraction is 24 because there are 24 hours in the day. Each of the segments represents 1 hour. So let's count how many red sections we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 24ths of the day spent eating. Now, I can see immediately that that is not in its simplest form. How do I know that? Because I'm pretty sure that 4 and 24 appear in the 4 times table. So what I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So I'm going to try dividing both of those by 4. So let's have a look at the numerator first. 4 divided by 4 goes 1. Now the denominator, 24 divided by 4, well, that's going to be 6. So we can say that 1/6 of Emily's time is spent eating. What I'd like you to do now is pause the video and have a go at working out how much time she spent playing. And then I will show you how to do it. Okay, how did you get on? Well, again, our denominator is going to be 24 because there are 24 sections, there are 24 hours of the day, and each section represents 1 hour. What I did next is I counted how many white sections there are because the white sections represent the playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 sections, 8 hours, so 8 becomes our numerator. Now I'm thinking about my times tables. I can see that both the numbers are even, but actually I know my 8 times table and I'm sure 24 is in it. So I'm going to divide my numerator and the denominator by 8. Because whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. Whatever I do to the numerator, I do to the denominator. So I think they're in the 8 times table. So let's go. 8 divided by 8 is 1. And 24 divided by 8 is 3. So therefore, I can say that Emily spends 1/3 of her time playing. Now let's have a look at this one. Emily is now 6 years old. The table shows how she spends her time now. Discuss how you would fill in the pie chart and fraction statements based on this information. Well, first of all, let's have a look at the pie chart because that's no longer split into 24 sections. How many sections is it split into? It's split into 8 sections. But we know there are still 24 hours of the day. So sleeping, it says that Emily spends 9 hours sleeping. So that's going to be 9/24. Eating, she spends 3 hours. So that's 3/24. Playing, 6 hours. So that's going to be 6/24. And again for school, that's also 6 hours. So again, 6/24. But the first question says 1/8 of Emily's time is spent. So I need to convert 1/8 into 24 so I can see which activity she's going to be doing. Now remember, whatever we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. So what do we times 8 by to get to 24? We times it by 3. What we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. So 1 times 3 is 3. So what does she do for 3 hours? Well, we can see, according to our table, 3 hours she does eating. So we can put eating in there. 3/8 of her time is spent. So again, we're going to have to convert 3/8 into 24. What I would like you to do is pause the video and have a go at doing that yourself. And then you can start the video up again and I will show you how to do it. So how did you get on? Let's have a look. So 3/8 converted to 24ths. We already know that if we times 8 by 3, we get to 24. So what we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. So we're also going to times that by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So let's go back to our table. What did Emily do for 9 hours? 9 hours she spent asleep. So she was sleeping. So that's what we write in there, sleeping. And then finally, a quarter of her time is spent. So what does she do for a quarter of her time? Again, pause the video, have a go yourself, and then start it up again to see if you're right. Well, to get from 4 to 24, we need to times by 6. What we do to the denominator, we also do to the numerator. So 6 times 1, is 6. So what does she do for 6 hours? Well, she does 2 things, doesn't she? She does playing for 6 hours and she also does school. So you've got 2 answers. So a quarter of her time is spent either playing or at school. So now it's going to be your turn. Let's have a quick look at the practice book. So question 1, the shaded part of these pie charts show how much time a horse, a cat and a boy spend sleeping in one day. Complete the missing information. So what you need to do here is you need to count how many sections each pie is split into. Let's do the first one together. So for the horse, it's split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the number of sections becomes the denominator. So the denominator will be 6. How many sections are coloured in? Well, in this case, only 1. So that means that 1 becomes the numerator. So therefore we can say the horse spends 1/6 of the day sleeping. You can do the same for the cat and for the boy. And then complete the sentence. The horse, cat or boy sleeps most of the day and sleeps for how many hours? So you then have to think there are 24 hours in a day. So if the horse has been asleep for 1/6 of it, how many hours would that be? You're going to divide 24, the number of hours in a day, by the denominator, which in this case was 6. Question 2. The pie chart shows the votes for school council representatives. 32 children voted. What fraction of the votes did each child get? So first of all, I counted how many sections there were. There were 16 sections. So my denominator is going to be 16. I can then count how many sections each child got. So Isla, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/16 of the vote. But I can see that both those numbers are even, so I know that that fraction is not in its simplest form. I can divide both by 2. What I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So if I divide both by 2, 6 divided by 2 is going to give me 3. 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8. Okay, I can do the same with Aki and Bella and Jamil. When I'm actually answering the last part, what fractions of the both votes did each child receive? Remember, you want your fraction in its simplest form. Okay, question 3. These pie charts represent the number of games 2 schools have won, lost, and drawn. Amelia says the Tigers have lost more games than the Bears. Now, you have to take into consideration how many games each team has played. So first of all, what does our key mean? When our stripy area is the numbers 1, our drawn area are the dots, and most importantly, our clear white area is the number of games lost. Now, I can see for the Bears, they have lost half their games. What's half of 20? Half of 20 is 10. How did I know they'd lost half their games? Because it's half of the circle. Half of the circle is coloured in white. So therefore they lost half of their games. What fraction of the circle for the Tigers is coloured in white? Quarter, isn't it? It's half of a half, which, as you know, is a quarter. So the Tigers have lost a quarter of their games. So what's a quarter of 48? Well, if we're finding a fraction of an amount, we divide by the denominator. So what you need to do is 48 divided by our denominator, which is 4. You can then see, once you've done that, which team has lost the most amount of games. So do you agree with Amelia? Don't just write yes or no. What you need to do is this bit here. Explain your answer. And again, if you get stuck, replay what I've just said, and that will help you and tell you what to write. Let's have a look at question 4. Each group voted for their favourite colour. Match each statement to the appropriate pie chart or the correct pie chart. So what are our statements? 21 people chose red, 45 people chose black, 12 people did not choose yellow, and 1/3 chose red. Now, let's have a look at our pie charts. Well, Group A is 24 people. And how many sections is it being split into? It's being split into 6 sections. So 24 divided by 6 means that every section is worth 4 people. Group B. Group B is 30 people. And how many sections has the pie chart been split into? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sections. So 30 divided by 10 is 3. So each section is equivalent to 3 people. Group C is 180 people. And how many sections has it been split into? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, well, you might want to do yourself a little bus stop here so that you can work out 180 divided by 8. but I can tell you it's 22.5 people is each section. Okay, now let's have a think. Choosing red. 21 people chose red. Well, red is the spotted one. So in group A, that section is worth 4 people and that section is 4 people. So how many people chose red for group A? Well, it was only 8. So therefore that statement cannot go to group A. Now, in B, each of the sections is worth 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. So 21 people chose red in group B. Let's just double check C, just to make sure. Well, each section in C is worth 22.5. And there are 3 sections, so I know that's going to be more than 21. I don't even need to work it out. Now I've shown you with red, can you work out the other 3 statements? If you need more practice, there are some more questions there. Challenges, have a go at these. And then, of course, finally, what is you can complete your reflection and have a go at this challenge. Don't panic today, just read the questions carefully and look carefully at your pie chart and you'll be fine. Remember, if you do get stuck, rather than giving up, I would much rather you message Miss Barnett or I through the Teams chat and we can then help you. Have fun today and good luck.